On Thursday morning, Hudson County TV met up with Joe Blaettler, the owner of East Coast Private Investigations and a former deputy chief at Union City. Blaettler filed an ethics complaint against State Senator Brian Stack back in June, and he told us about it one-on-one. In the complaint, he alleges that Stack violated the memorandum of understanding with the state, made a makeshift pay-to-play ordinance, and also has been giving out overtime to people that don't deserve it.
On June 5th, I believe, I filed the next complaint against Brian Stack, and the complaint is based on the fact that he lied on a certification that he filed with the state of New Jersey. The city of Union City is under a memorandum of understanding, and in order to receive the state aid, they must abide by certain rules and regulations. And one of the rules was that Union City had to have a pay-to-play ordinance in effect, which they did not. And by not having the pay-to-play ordinance in effect, it allowed Stack to raise more money that he really should have been raising. So therefore, I filed the ethics complaint because I believe that it's unethical what he did. He knowingly signed a false certification, knowing that the content of that document was false, but he had no problem signing it. And when he signed the document, about a year went by before the actual pay-to-play ordinance was actually put into effect. So his conduct is unquestionably unethical, it's dishonest, and it's misleading to the public.
So again, that was about December 2010 when this first started to get some attention. And then, as you write, it says on May 2011, there was still no pay-to-play ordinance. So, I mean, what do you think that indicates?
I believe the state of New Jersey covered up for him. I believe that because of his relationship with Chris Christie, Brian Stack's allowed to do what he wants. They took no action. Only after the media got involved and it was covered in the Star Ledger and other news outlets did the state finally force him to enact a pay-to-play. And then he tried to pass through a sham ordinance that the state rejected and said that they're not giving him any more money until he passes the pay-to-play. Brian Stack thinks there's a set of rules for him and a set of rules for everybody else. And that's why I believe that Brian Stack is probably the most ethically challenged elected official in the state of New Jersey. And I really believe that the state needs to take action against him and send a message that either you play by the rules or there's going to be consequences.
So then it was February 2012 when he tried to, when the city passed the pay-to-play ordinance, and now you're calling it a watered-down version, so why did you believe that this wasn't equivalent to anywhere else in the state?
Well, the first one he tried to pass had loopholes in it, and I forget who the woman was. She was from some public group. She made the accusations that it was a watered-down version. The state agreed with her because they told them they weren't going to accept that ordinance, and he had to change it. And there was actually an article in the Star Ledger, and there was an editorial that he better get it right this time. And then after much pressure, he relented and he passed the ordinance. But that doesn't excuse the fact that for a year or 2-year period, he was able to raise funds that he should not have been entitled to had he enacted the pay-to-play ordinance.
All right, so that basically sums up part one of the complaint, right?
That's part one of the complaint, and then part two of the complaint was, again, with the memorandum of understanding. It clearly stated that part-time elected officials are not entitled to medical benefits, and he was receiving medical benefits, him and the four commissioners. And again, the state dragged their feet, and they allowed time to lapse. They allowed all the commissioners that had second jobs with the Board of Education to enroll in other programs. They allowed Stack some time to enroll in the state program, and then they just made believe it didn't happen. So again, therefore, it's my opinion that because Brian Stack sells his Senate vote and his endorsement to Chris Christie gives him a tremendous amount of money and looks the other way on whatever Brian does. And that to me is the bottom line. And now it's up to the ethics committee to take action against Brian Stack and send a message that you have to be ethical. If you want to be an elected official in New Jersey, you have to be ethical.
And there's also a part three about overtime, salary, promotions, and transfers.
Basically, again, the agreement states that no one in a management position is allowed to be paid overtime. And yet there are people in Union City in management positions who are closely aligned with Brian Stack who are receiving overtime. Brian Stack doesn't put a stop to it because this is the way he rewards his supporters, by using tax dollars to give them overtime. He always attacks me on my salary, the salary that he gave me, but he has no problem rewarding his friends and supporters with tax dollars.
There's some things, as we discussed, that go back nearly 3 years. So why did you decide to make one lengthy complaint now versus, let's say, 3 smaller complaints over the course of the past, 20, 22 months or so?
Because of the way the law is written. You cannot file an ethics complaint 90 days before an election. So I had to wait till June to file. I had filed ethics complaints in the past, but because of the way the law is written, they will not accept an ethics complaint 90 days before an election. So I had to wait till after the primary, and then I filed it, and now they're going to have the hearing on September 18th. And then once November comes around, after that I can file other ethics complaints if I wish. But you cannot file an ethics complaint within 90 days of a primary or a general election. So there's some timelines and guides you got to follow. And again, the reason why I filed the ethics complaint is because it was clear what he did with the certification. He lied on the certification. I mean, right, if you have the document, it says, are you in compliance with the MOU? And he says yes, when in fact he knew that to be false. And I sent this to the FBI, I sent it to the state, and I was hoping they would take action. Since they did not take action, then I resorted to an ethics complaint against them.
Before we parted ways, Blaettler then issued an open challenge to have a Hudson County TV debate with Stack.
So I have an offer to Brian Stack. One-on-one in a room, me and Brian Stack, okay? All issues on the table. We'll let Hudson County TV moderate it, and we'll have a debate, me and Brian, one-on-one. Face-to-face, man-to-man, look each other in the eyes, and we'll talk about all these issues, okay? Let's get away from the name-calling. Let's get down to the facts. Brian doesn't want to talk about the facts, and I'll even throw an incentive in there. If Brian wants to meet me one-on-one, I'll make a $1,000 donation to his favorite charity, okay? I'll give him some incentive to show up. Look me in the eyes. While we're at it, we'll bring up all the lawsuits that I filed against Union City that he requested confidential agreements on that I'm not allowed to talk about. I'll sign a waiver. We'll talk about all the confidential settlements, and he can sign the waiver, and we'll talk about those too if you'd like. All my critics, attack me all you want, comment all you want, but you know what? At least have the courage to put your name on it. You know, I'm here on TV, whether you like me, you don't like me, you agree with me, you disagree with me, I'm stating what I believe in, okay? So if people want to go and attack me, go ahead and attack me. But you know what? Just do me a favor, be a man about it and put your name.
I'm John Heides with Hudson County TV. For more information, log on to HudsonCountyTV.com.